Hello, everybody. Welcome to Top Yoga Educations. So, you have already completed your classes of accounts, law, and maths, right? You had a session of accounts yesterday, a session of law, and a session of maths yesterday. And then we went forward and had accounts class also today in the morning. So, now we're going to start business economics as the new subject, right? So, I want a confirmation from everybody if I'm audible. If I'm audible, please say hi. Yes, sir, you're audible. Or yes, just type yes in the chat box. And whenever you are chatting, whenever you're using the chat option, so chat option is there. If you click on the screen, you would get a chat option in the below of the screen. Below there'll be many options. One of the options would be chat. So you can open that and you can chat. So everybody except Yash Mittal is not able to hear me. Yash, 1 second. I'll just respond to Yash. Okay. So everybody can hear me clearly and see me, right? So Med, you cannot see me. My voice is not clear or my video is not clear. What is not clear? My voice is doubling. Okay. 1 second. Okay. How is it now? I've changed my audio. I've changed my audio to my earphones. So previously it was connected to my camera. So how's the audio now? Is it clear? Is it clear enough? Okay. So it's all good. I hope everybody has joined. To your friends who have not joined, you can just ping them on WhatsApp to join this link and we can start the class then. Okay, so everything is good now, everything is clear. So just to give you a gist of how this app works, so I have muted you guys because I don't want the outside disturbance to disturb the whole class. There'll be a disturbance behind you, or there'll be a disturbance in your home, or wherever you're sitting. So that disturbance would disturb the whole class. That is why you have been put on mute. Also, your video has been stopped, or your all your videos have been stopped, so that people don't confuse my video with other videos, right? So when you see this app, if I am talking, you can see my video, but if somebody else also opens this video, that would also come up. So that also we have disabled. Okay. With respect to chat option, you can access the chat option. As I told you, you can click on the screen and below there'll be many options, out of which one of them is chat option, and you can chat with me. So whenever you have a doubt, or whenever I'm asking you something, I need you to write on that chat box, right? Okay. To go ahead, so what is the agenda today? The agenda today is that we are starting a new subject, which is business economics and business and commercial knowledge, right? Before going ahead, I would like to tell you about myself. So I am CA Darpan Jain. I cleared my chartered accountancy at the age of 21. So I'm one of the very few young chartered accountants back then. I was one of the very few chartered accountants back then to clear CA at such a young age, right? I also scored the highest in auditing paper at CA final level. I joined as a tax consultant at Ernst& Young, which is one of the big four companies or big four accounting groups of the world, right? I was there as a tax consultant, but then there was this passion inside me which was driving me towards teaching. So then I joined a NGO, which is a non-governmental organization called as Make a Difference, which is also called as MAD, M-A-D. So this Make a Difference was involved with teaching these underprivileged kids in orphanages, kids in government schools, where they don't get proper teaching, where they don't get to study English properly, or where they don't get to study maths properly. We would go to their schools on weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays, and teach them. And then I left EY to pursue my passion towards teaching completely. And then I started teaching at CA Foundation level. I teach at CA Foundation level economics, BCK, which is the paper, complete paper 4, right? I also teach business and correspondence reporting, which is the part B of paper 2, your second part of business law paper, right? At CA inter level, I teach economics for finance. Okay, so that was about me. I hope everything is clear now. Natasha says it's not clear. Natasha, I hope now it's clear. You can hear me clearly. Okay, to start, so before we start anything, what do? We pray, right? Before you start anything new, what do? You pray. And for before we start this class, what do I want you to do? I want you to listen the expectations that I have from you for this class. Okay. So we would start by the expectations that I have from you for this class. So expectations from you. Now, what are my expectations from you? My expectations, I can actually jot them down in the form of acronym, which finally is an acronym of my name. Okay, very creative, right? So what does D stand for? D stands for discipline, right? So I want you guys to be disciplined. Now, what does discipline mean, or in what terms do I mean that you should be disciplined? First, you should be disciplined for watching your classes. Okay. So watching your classes, and this discipline is more important now in these times. Why? Because you're not actually traveling to the class where you're sitting in front of the sir, right? Right now there's a live class and you're coming live and watching it at the time that we're giving you. But after the live classes, we would be going with recorded classes. So during those recorded classes, I want each one of you, I want every one of you to watch the classes in a very phased manner, in a very disciplined manner, right? We would be sending you classes on an incremental basis, that is on a daily basis. And I want you to complete those classes as and when we send you. So today's class, I want you to complete that by today, or maximum if you cannot watch it today because of some reason, maximum by tomorrow, right? So discipline in terms of watching classes is the least expectation that I can have from you, right? What is the second discipline that I need? The second discipline that I need is for studying. So watching classes is one of the minimum expectation that I can have. What is the second expectation? Discipline in terms of studying. So you have watched the class, but it is also important to sit at one place and again go back to what you have studied in the class, right? That is when you refresh your memory, or that is when you put those things into your brain, right? So discipline, just two things: discipline in terms of watching classes and discipline in terms of studying. What is A? A is ask why. Now, what is ask why, and why in bold letters? So, to everything that you come across in your life, ask a question as to why. Let's suppose I told you a concept. Let's suppose you are studying a new thing which you don't know already. Just don't believe as to, just don't study from the upper surface of it. Ask questions as to why. Why is this so? Why can't it be something else? What is the reason behind we saying this? So this question why, you can actually apply it to the concepts of life also. It's not restricted to your subject. For your subject, yes, but uh, for your life also you can apply why. So Harsha says it is not clear. What is not clear, Harsha? Audio or video, or the things that I'm writing? So ask why. Why is this necessary? This is necessary for conceptual learning, right? Sound is not clear. One second. This is required for word for conceptual learning. Okay. Okay, so coming to R. Now we studied as to what is D, what is A, what is R. R is revise, revision. As Gautam sir also told you yesterday, what do we do every day? We revise the class for you as to what did we teach the earlier day, right? And why is that necessary? That is necessary so that it gets registered in your brain, right? To to get certain things registered in your brain, you have to go back to those things repeatedly, and that is when it gets registered in your brain. So R is for revise. Why? To register your learnings in the brain. Okay, Pani says it's better now. The voice is better now, but Mayank says it's not coming. Can others confirm if my voice is clear and audible? Just type yes if you can hear me clearly. Okay, it is clear. So DAR. Now what's P? P is proactiveness. And I hope you guys are noting these down. As we told you yesterday also, we need you to carry your notebook, be with your notebook, sit in an undisturbed environment, sit where you're not disturbed by people, be with your notebook and write down things. So if you write down these things, these will be like a parameter to you, or like standards to you that you should meet every day, right? So P is proactiveness. Now what is proactiveness? Proactiveness is, I don't want you to be lazy. I don't want you to delay things to the next day. Do it today. Don't procrastinate. Don't delay things, right? So proactiveness, so not to be lazy. So we would cut lazy, right? And stay motivated. Stay motivated at all the times, right? For people who are saying that the voice is buffering, if you can close the window, if you can close the meeting and come back again, it would probably be fine then. Okay, A. What's A now? A is ask doubts freely. So we don't want you to have a doubt and keep that doubt and move forward. We want you to clear that doubt as and when you get that doubt. So let's say you're studying today and you get a doubt while studying as to why is this or what is this? I'm not understanding. So we would make a Telegram group for you, as we said yesterday, and you can post your doubts on that Telegram group after you get registered with Top Yug Educations, right? After you get registered. So ask doubts freely. Why is this required? This is required for clarity, right? If you're not clear, then you cannot move forward, or if you're not clear, then you would not understand the things which are afterwards. Then what is N? N is notes preparation. So right now you might be thinking that these are online classes. I can just watch it with my own comfort. I can sit anywhere. I can just listen to the classes rather than actually noting down because it's anyways on my mobile. No, this is a time that you should utilize in order so that the next times or the coming times you don't waste time afterwards. So if you note down things as and when the sir is teaching, if you make your running notes, let's say I did not tell you to make note of something, but you think that it will be important for you to understand things, then you should make note of all those things also. So during the recorded class also, we want you to sit with a notebook and with at least two color pens and a pencil, so that you can then write the headings in a different color pen, write the matter in a different color pen, and use pencils to underline the important keywords, right? So notes preparation. What about notes preparation? I told notes preparation first is make summary of things. You are making notes, you are preparing notes in the class, right? But when you're studying, make summary of things. Study a whole chapter and make the summary of that chapter afterwards, so that it's very easy for you to go back before your exams, to go back to those books and just read the summary version where you can understand everything, right? First is make some summary. Second is make them beautiful. Now, how do you make them beautiful? And why is it necessary for you to make these notes beautiful? You would go back to things that you find beautiful, right? If the notes are very shabby or if the notes are very dirty, you would not feel like studying them afterwards. But if you maintain it very neatly and very clearly, then you would like to go back and you would like to read that book again and again, right? So to make them beautiful, what did I tell you? I told you, use underline things, highlight things, use color pens, different color pens. A black and a blue would do, or a black and a red, or blue and a red. Use pencil to underline things, right? Make charts. We would in class make a lot of charts. We would make a lot of diagrams, since this is economics. We would make a lot of graphs and tables, right? So chart, tables, graphs. This is how you make those notes pretty looking, right? So these are the expectations that I have from you. What are they? They are discipline, ask why to each thing, ask why, revise things, be proactive rather than being lazy, ask doubts very freely without any hesitation, and prepare your notes very beautifully, right? So these are the expectations that I have from you. But there might be some expectations that you might be having from the class. So to just list down some expectations as to what do you have from the class, I want you guys to type as to what do you expect from a business economics class. You can write in the chat box. I'm waiting for your answers as to what do you expect from me. I have told you as to what do I expect from you. What do you expect from me? So my next heading would be expectations from the class. What are your expectations? So that we can also jot down those and be clear as to what do you guys expect out of the class. Okay, Namit says education with fun. All right. And we have already discussed education with fun in our last class, where CA Gautam Jain had told you. Doubts clarification. All right. With regard to doubts clarification, I've already told you that we would make a Telegram group after you register with us, where you can post your doubts as and when you study things, so that we can clear that doubts on the same day via Telegram. If the doubt is too complicated, or if the doubt is very complicated to actually solve it on a chat, then we would take a call that we would call you within a specific time, and we would entertain those calls if the doubt is very complicated, right? So doubts clarification will happen via Telegram and on call. Okay, be very understanding to us. Okay, Funny wants to know about Indian economy. All right, teaching us like a friend. That's great. Okay, explain in very easy language. Okay, so to this point, to be explained in very easy language, we are making sure that we teach you only in simple English. So the class's language would only be in simple English. Okay, so apart from these, the other thing that I would like to tell you about the classes, one is pace. Pace is what? Pace is the speed of the class. So the speed of the class would depend on the topic. If it's a very easy topic where I know that you would understand it very quickly, the pace of the class would go fast. But if I know that the topic is a bit complicated, or the topic needs a lot of understanding, or needs a lot of base before going forward, then I would spend a lot of time on that topic before moving forward. So the pace would not be constant throughout the class. It would depend as to how are we moving forward, right? Fifth one is tests. So I don't know if anybody has given me or written me anything relating to test, but tests, if I want to tell you about tests in the manner that I would conduct tests, the test would be conducted after every chapter. So let's say you finished a chapter today, you would be having a test in 2 days. We would announce the syllabus, or we would give you the syllabus 2 days before the test, and you would write the test without invigilation, right? Because you're not right now with us. or you cannot come to the class to write the test. You would write the test at your home without invigilation. And then we would give you also the answer sheet after 2 days of the exam. Also, if I find some question very complicated, or if I think that the question was a tricky question where the students can get confused, I would discuss those questions in the class. Or if you think that the question was very difficult or you could not understand the question, you have all the liberty to write it on the Telegram group as to, I did not understand this question, can you explain me? So if I want to explain in the group, I would explain in the group, or I can also take it up in the next class, next recorded class, right? So that is about tests. So these are the expectations that I've set for you, and the expectations that are set from the class that we are having, right? So we cannot put Hindi words in between. Like, we would put Hindi words if it's a slang that we want to use, or for just to make a thing entertaining, or if I'm telling an example and that example needs a Hindi word in order to make it entertaining, I would probably use Hindi words. But we make sure that we don't use Hindi words. Why? Because if you study in English, if you listen to the subject in English, then you would actually be better off. Why? Because you would write the exam in English, right? You will have to write the exam in English. So if I teach you in English and you start thinking of the subject from Hindi perspective, then there'll be a problem, or there'll be a gap in terms of understanding the topic or understanding the subject and you actually writing in the exam, right? So we don't want that gap. So we want to bridge that gap, and that is why the learnings or the class would be in simple English. Right. Okay, so moving forward, let's start. So I told you that I am taking two subjects, right? One is business economics and the other is business and commercial knowledge. Now, if I tell you what is the weightage, business economics is of 60 marks and business, commercial and knowledge is of 40 marks. Okay. So the business economics is 60 marks and business and commercial knowledge is of 40 marks. We would start with business economics as a subject. When business economics gets completed, we will start business and commercial knowledge. But to give you a heads up as to what is included in business and commercial knowledge, business and commercial knowledge mainly deals with the businesses around you. What are the main businesses around you? Apple, right? The Apple company, the business of Reliance Industry, the business of Tata Group, the business of Microsoft. These are the current businesses that are around you. So business and commercial knowledge actually wants to test the students on their current affairs a little bit. Okay. There will be a lot of theory also in your book, but apart from that, there can be some questions which are relating to current affairs. So what do I want you to do from today till the date of exam? I want you to start reading a newspaper. Okay. Preferably a business newspaper, because that would help you to get insights on the businesses, right? So start reading newspaper. I would emphasize on that point as and when we go on with classes, but I want you to start reading newspapers. So today, after the classes, after the math session, what's your first thing to do? Start reading a newspaper. If you don't have a habit of reading newspaper, build that habit, because that is necessary in order for you to clear at least the business and commercial knowledge subject in flying colors. Okay, right. So coming back to business economics. So I told you that we would take up business and commercial knowledge afterwards. So let's take up business economics and see as to what are the subjects or what are the topics in business economics, right? Okay. So business economics, if I want to tell you the chapters and the weightage. Okay. So what are the chapters? First one is Introduction to Business Economics. Introduction to Business Economics. The second one is, I want you guys to write all this because I'll also give you the weightage. So if you can write it simultaneously, it'll be great. Introduction to Business Economics. Theory of demand and supply, right? then theory of production and cost, then fourth one is price determination in different markets, and the last one that we have, let me change the boldness of the pen because it's too bold, and the fifth one is business cycles. All right, so introduction to business economics, which is our first chapter, has 2 units. Second chapter has 3. Again, third chapter has 2 units. Fourth chapter again has 3 units, and fifth has just a single unit. So these chapters again have different units to them. So the first chapter that we have, that would be of about 9 to 12 marks. Okay, so the first chapter is of 9 to 12 marks. The second and third chapter cumulative would add up about to 21 to 24 marks. The fourth chapter that we have would be about 15 to 18 marks. And the last chapter that we have, that would be about 9 to 12 marks. All right. So these weightage that we are giving you, this is not the exact weightage, because ICI, you cannot judge or you cannot assume or you cannot pre-decide as to what would be coming in the paper, right? But this is an approximate weightage. So let me add that in the heading also for you, that these are chapters and approximate weightage. This is not the exact weightage, and we would not depend on this weightage also for anything. So these weightage are just for your information purpose. It's not the case that you would concentrate upon the chapters which are more important from the exam's perspective and not concentrate on the others, right? You will have to read everything perfectly so that you don't miss out on anything. All the chapters are also interrelated. So if you don't concentrate on one specific chapter, then who would be at loss? You would be at loss, right? And what would we aiming at? What would be our target? Our target would be to score as maximum as we can, right? There's sky is the limit. There's no limit to the marks that you can score. So we would be aiming at the sky, not anything anywhere in the middle, right? So I don't want you to concentrate on the weightage. We're just giving you for your information, right? So these are the chapters, or these are the things that you would study in economics. I want one thing from you guys. I want to know if any student from you guys are from a science background and not from a commerce background. If anybody is from science background, just type in this chat box that you're from science background and you have not studied economics before. If you've studied economics before, then don't. Okay, I hope so. I am assuming that everybody is from a commerce background who have at least studied economics once. Yes, you might still be, not aware as to what fully is economics, or you might not be aware of the concepts and the theory of economics, but you still know as to what is the word economics. You must be hearing that word from a long time, or you know the words demand and supply, right? We still would be going in the depth of everything. All right. So this is from the perspective as to what are the chapters and what are the things which are included in our book. But there are certain things which the ICI expects. Now let's go as to what is the expectations of ICI. What do I mean by ICAI? Yesterday we told you, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, right? That is an institution which is governing the whole CA course and also the chartered accountants. So if I want to tell you, or if I want to go take you through business economics from ICI's perspective, there will be 3 legs. What are the 3 legs? One second. Yeah. What are the 3 legs? The first leg is, what is the objective of our paper? What is the objective? What is the objective of studying economics, right? What is the objective of economics? The first objective that ICI itself tells, or ICI itself prescribes, is first one, understanding concepts and theories of economics. The first objective of the subject. Why are we studying this subject? The first objective of the subject from the subject's perspective is to understand the concepts and theories of economics. Second is applying. So you understood the concepts and theories. Now what are you doing? You're applying those concepts and theories. So applying such concepts and theories for what? For solving, and I hope everybody is writing, for solving simple problems. What did I say? I am saying simple problems. I am not saying complex problems. I'm saying simple problems, right? All right. So the objective is, the first one is to understand all the concepts and theories which are there in economics. Second is also apply those concepts and theories in what? In solving your simple problems relating to businesses or relating to economics, right? So this was the first leg. Now what is the second leg? The second leg is, what are your skill sets which are tested in the exam? Or what do they test you on exam? Do they test you on theory, or do they give you practical questions and practical examples and ask you to solve them? What do they do? So if you see, this also is prescribed by ICI. They say that 40 to 50% of your paper would be relating to comprehension and knowledge. Okay, what is comprehension and knowledge? Comprehension and knowledge is the theory part of your paper. Is what this particular questions would test you on what did you read theoretically, right? The second aspect, which is covering about 50 to 60%, is what? Is your application based questions. All right. So what are these application based questions now? Application based questions are your practical questions. You are using the theory in order to solve some certain problem. That is your application based questions. To give you an example, let's say there's a question relating to the theory of economics. Let's say there's a question, who's the father of economics? So the answer to this question is based on the theory that you've read, right? So out of that theory, you know that this guy is the father of economics and you would answer that question. Now, what is an application question? And an example for application question can be, they can give you ABC and company has a demand of 50 units in year one, and the demand has increased to 120 units in unit two. What happened? The demand increased, right? And they can ask you to calculate the elasticity of such demand. Now, in this case, what happens? In this case, you would first go back to your theory and go back as to what concepts did you read, and then apply such concepts in this practical example, right? So using your application skills and not your comprehension and knowledge skills, correct? So 50 to 60% of your paper would be application based questions, and 40 to 50% would be comprehension and knowledge based questions. What is the third leg of business economics from ICI's perspective? The paper pattern. Right? So to tell you as to what is the paper pattern, the paper pattern for both business economics and business and commercial knowledge, that is your paper 4. Paper 4 has two parts, right? Both of the parts or whole of the paper 4 would be MCQ based questions. Right? There'll be multiple choice questions where you would have a question and you would have 4 options, and out of those 4 options you will have to select one. Now for these MCQ questions, yesterday also Pranav sir might have told you as to how do you what are the weightage for these questions, or how are these scored, right? How are they scored? For every right answer that you have, so for every right answer that you have, or a tick, I'm using tick for right answer, what would happen? Your score will increase by 1 mark, right? But for every wrong answer that you have attempted, right? For every wrong answer that you've attempted, what would happen? 1/4 of your mark would get deducted. What will happen? your score will be reduced by 0.25. Correct? Your score would be reduced by 0.25 for every wrong answer that you attempt. Let's say there's a question which you did not attempt, nothing will happen. Your score would not increase, your score would not decrease. But if you have attempted, then if it's right, your score will increase by 1. If it's wrong, then the score will decrease by 0.25, right? So this is from ICI's perspective as to what does ICI expect out of this subject. Okay. So to tell you more about MCQs, or to give you some tips as to how do you tackle MCQ questions, let me give you some information. I hope everybody has already copied this. I can move forward. Just say yes if you're understanding everything, or if you find the pace very fast, or if you find the pace not comfortable, you can also tell that. Okay. Okay, a lot of yeses. No problem. So let's move forward then. Tips to tackle MCQ questions. So write down the heading. Tips to tackle MCQ questions. So these tips would be helpful for all the MCQ questions, both for maths and for economics and for BCK, right? So what are the tips? The first tip that I can give you is read the question. Don't just skim through it. Read it properly. So read the question completely and carefully. Completely and carefully. So right now, when you're actually seeing this, you would be like, yes, sir, I would read the question completely only, before answering. No, sometimes what happens, you're in a hurry to, finish the paper and get out of the exam room. So what do? You just skim through a question and answer it before reading it completely, right? And if you not read it completely, there might be something tricky which is hidden in that question, which you can miss if you're not reading it carefully. If you're just skimming through it, what do I mean by skimming through it? Like reading a storybook. Do you read storybook very carefully? Do you read a novel very carefully? No, right? You skim through it. But when you're reading a question, you shouldn't skim through it. You should read every word which is there very carefully and clearly. Correct? I will also give you an example in the end as to why do you do this. So read the question completely and carefully. What is the second one? Before jumping to answer in your mind first. So before you're jumping to an answer, what do? You answer in your mind first. There are some students who are raising hands. I might not be able to see those people who are raising hands right now. You can just type in the chat box as to what is your concern, right? Okay. So answer in your mind first before jumping to the answer. So you've read the question completely and carefully, and then you've answered in your mind before going to the answers. Now go to the answers and read all the answers carefully, right? Read all answers also carefully. Just because you know an answer, just don't go and tick that box. Read the other options also. Sometimes it can happen that some answer is actually changing your mind or changing the way you're thinking for the question, right? It can happen. What is the fourth one? You've read all the answers also carefully. After reading the answers carefully, if possible or if required, use elimination process. What is this elimination process? Elimination process is a process whereby you're using elimination process to eliminate the answers which you definitely know are wrong. Okay, what are you doing? You are eliminating, or you're striking off the answer from your mind and from the question paper that you know is definitely wrong and would not be right. Correct? So use elimination process for wrong answers. Correct? And the last tip that I have is analyze the wordings of the question. Analyze the wording of the question, especially words like always, never, not, no, etc. What are these words? These are extreme words, right? They can actually confuse you by giving these extreme words or by giving opposites of these words, right? So if I want to give you an example using these words, a very basic example, I'm not using economics right now. I will not give you an economics based question. I will give you a question which is a very general question, which a second standard guy also can answer probably. So the question is, I'll just ask you the question and I want you guys to write in the chat box. If I write it here, then it'll be too easy. So the question is, which one of these, okay, which one of these is not always in water? What did I say? Which one of these is not always, so I'm using not and always, which one of these is not always in water? Okay, and what are the options? I'll write down the options. The first option that we have is a crocodile. The second option that we have is a dolphin. The third option that we have is a monkey. Fourth option that we have is a shark. So what was our question? Our question was, which one of these is not always in water? Now, what would be the answer? Okay, so there are some answers which are saying crocodile, and there are some answers which are saying monkey. So everybody's sure it is not dolphin and shark, right? Okay, so dolphin and shark, what did we do? We used elimination method to eliminate them because we clearly know that they're always in water, right? So they are extremes to the question. The question is giving you something and the answer is completely opposite. They are extremes to each other. So you would eliminate the answers which are completely opposite. What are left? Left are crocodile and monkey. What was the question? Which one of these animals is not always in water? What does this mean? What is the question asking you? The question is asking you as to which one of these is sometimes in water and sometimes in land, on land, right? It's not asking you as to which one of these animals is always on land, correct? It's asking you which one of these animals is not always in water. That means it is in water sometimes and it is sometimes on land. So what would be the right answer here? The right answer would be crocodile, right? So people who have said monkey, I hope you've understood that the question is not specifying or it's not asking you as to which one of these animals is on land or is always on land, right? It's asking you which one of these is not always in water, right? That means it's sometimes in water and sometimes on land. Okay, so I hope you've copied this. I'm just keeping this for a few seconds more so that you can copy the tips which are there to tackle MCQ questions. All right, let's move forward. Okay, so you might be having a question in your mind as to why are we studying economics, right? What does a chartered accountant do? What did you hear from people normally? You heard that a chartered accountant is always involved in things like taxation, things like auditing, more things like accountancy. But why economics? Like, why are you actually studying economics, right? So let's take up that question. If somebody has any opinions, or if somebody knows as to why do you study economics, or how does economics help a chartered accountant, you can just type in that chat box by the time I write my heading. So why economics for a CA, right? This is the query. So why do we need to study economics? Since right now, as I asked you, you told that everybody knows as to what is economics and everybody has studied economics in their inter. But now you guys don't know as to how does economics help a chartered accountant, right? So how does it help? Economics actually helps in business consultancy. Now, what is business consultancy? You might be asking, sir, what is business consultancy? I don't understand. I've heard the word business. I've heard the word consultancy also sometimes. But when I'm putting together, I'm not able to understand as to what are these two words meaning, right? So what is business consultancy? Let's take helps to understand business, right, Namit? We'll come to that. So business consultancy, what is business consultancy? Let's take an example. Let's say there's a person, Mr. A. Okay. So Mr. A has a lavish office. He's a chartered accountant and he has a lavish office where he gives services through that office. Now, let's suppose there's a client and the client walks in. What happens? You treat him like a god, right? Whatever query that the client has, you want to tackle every query of his with utmost responsibility and with utmost conviction so that you're able to impress that client, right? So the client walks in. For what doubts do clients walk into a chartered accountant? The doubts can be pertaining to taxation as to how do I do my taxes? How do I file my return? How do I calculate my tax? Right? Or it can relate to some accountancy where there are problems in accounts. I'm not able to, draw up a balance sheet properly, or my trading in P&L is not depicting the true profit and loss of my business. Right? There can be problems like this. But apart from these problems, there can be problems relating to businesses, right? There can be a problem where the opposite person or your client is suffering, or his business is suffering because of an outside market or because of a change in market. To take an example, if I can tell you that technology has changed the businesses all over the world completely, right? The demand, the supply, the expectations of the consumer, everything has changed because of the technology that we are using right now. So let's say there's a person and he's actually very disappointed with the kind of business that he's doing right now. Can he come to a chartered accountant and ask you, if you don't read economics or if you don't study economics, then you would not be able to answer his questions very effectively, right? Because you would not know as to how does the economy work, or how does the macroeconomic work, and how does the microeconomics work, right? Then you would not be able to answer him perfectly. But if you know concepts like demand, if you know concepts like supply, if you know the production process, or what are the things which are involved in production, if you know as to what is the costing of products, then you would be able to understand his problem and then give a proper answer. So that is nothing but business consultancy. What is business consultancy? Business consultancy is you, as a chartered accountant, is helping the opposite person or helping your client with the doubts or with the concerns that he has relating to his business, right? Okay. The second why, as to why economics for CA is, as Namit said, it helps us to understand the businesses, right? So helps us to understand the businesses. Very good, Namit. Third is, it helps us to understand the various terms in economics, like economic terms and the overall economy. Understand economic terms and the economy. Helps us to know how economy works. Very good. Right, Yash? Okay. Apart from this, I've already told you that what was the objective of ICI teaching you economics? What was their objective of keeping this particular subject in the in your curriculum? That it makes you understand the theories and concepts of economics. Apart from that, it also teaches you us to how do you apply these concepts in simple problem solving. So that also we can include. Helps in what? In problem solving. Through right decision making. Correct. So these are the things, or these are the areas where economics would be useful for you after you become a chartered accountant. Okay. So you have learned till now as to what are my expectations from you, what are your expectations, or we set the expectations from the class as to what you can expect from the class. We have seen as to what does business economics comprise, what are the chapters, what are the weightages, and we also saw from ICI's perspective as to what do ICI expect from the point of objective, the skill set which will be tested, and the paper pattern. And then we moved on to see as to how do you tackle MCQ questions properly, and we saw why is it necessary for a chartered accountant to study economics. Okay, so this was all the basic that you need in order to jump to a chapter. right? So now we would start our first chapter, which is what the first chapter that is there, which was written above also, is Introduction to Business Economics. Right? Introduction to what? Introduction to business economics. So for a while, right now, don't concentrate on the word business, just concentrate on the word economics. We would try to understand, or we would make ourselves very clear as to what do economics mean, right? Naman says, please repeat business consultancy. Okay, so business consultancy, what you were doing in that, as a chartered accountant, you were helping your client in the doubts or in the queries or in the problems that he has relating to what all these doubts or all these queries are relating to his business. That his business is not working well, or his demand, he's not able to analyze his demand, or he's not able to analyze his costs, his production. Then you would help him in his business. That is business consultancy. Okay. So chapter 1, which is Introduction to Business Economics. Now, before actually seeing the word business economics together, let's see just the word economics first, and then we would move to business economics. So to explain you as to what is economics, let's take an example. Let's say, what is the most exciting day of the year? Like, what date are you most excited for? Is there a day, some day when you are the most excited? Quickly, I want quick answers. So what day are you the most excited? Okay. So Harshal is excited for Navratri, and Samyak is excited for a new year. Great. So he starts a new year with an excitement. Right. So I wanted the answer birthday. Now you all, if not all, most of us are very excited for our birthdays, right? What happens on a birthday? On our birthday, let's say, on our birthday, what happened? Our mom gave us, so mom gave us rupees 1,000. Okay, so what happened? It was your birthday and you went to mom. Mom said you happy birthday. Aap unke pair chhuye, and then she gave you 1,000 rupees. Correct? What would you do with these 1,000 rupees? Now there'll be a lot of ideas coming in. There'll be a lot of things that you can do with this 1,000 rupees, right? So let's jot down the options. Let's jot down some of the options that I can think right now as to what are the things, or what are the materialistic things or non-materialistic things that you can do with these 1,000 rupees that you've received. Okay, so what are the options? Let's say first option is throwing a party to your friends. Okay, so you're throwing a party to your friends with this 1,000 rupees. Let's say you're also thinking, instead of throwing a party to my friends, I would go and watch a movie. Okay, so what are you doing? You're watching a movie. Okay, but just to watch the movie alone, would you utilize the whole 1,000 rupees? No, there'll be something which is left. Okay, so what do? You also eat in a restaurant. Okay, you also eat in a very posh restaurant where you were thinking that I would probably go in that restaurant someday. And one finally day where you've received 1,000 rupees from your mom, instead of giving party to your friends, you thought, chalo, I will go myself. I will have myself birthday where I'm watching a movie alone and I'm eating in a restaurant, spending that 1,000 rupees on myself happily and coming back home, right? For self-love. What is the option number 3? I don't want to throw a party. I don't want to watch a movie. I want something. I want an article which I can use for a long period of time. What can I do? I can buy a dress. Right? I can buy a dress with that 1,000 rupees. Or what can I do? I can buy a book. Right? I can buy a book. What kind of book? A book which would give you insights on economics, right? So that Darpan sir is also happy with the 1,000 rupees that you've used. Now to buy a book, when you buy a book, what do? 1,000 rupees would be a lot for one book, right? That book might be costing zyada se zyada 500 or 600 rupees, right? So you save also something. So what do? You buy a book and save, right? Okay, so you're saving also in because you have a leftover amount and you're saving also out of the amount that you've received. Now what happened? You had 1,000 rupees in your hand, and there were a lot of things that you could do. You could throw a party, you could watch a movie, you could buy a dress, you could buy a book. Given an option, would you not do all the four options? Right? Let's say this was not 1,000 rupees and it was 4,000 rupees. I'm giving you 4,000 rupees. Now, can you not do all the four options? Yes, you can do, right? So given a chance, you would want to do all the four things, correct? So one basic concept of economics you've already learned. What is that basic concept? Let's now try to write the basic concepts of economics or the fundamental facts of economics. All right. So fundamental, sorry, I hope you are noting it down. Fundamental facts of economics, or what can I call this? Can also be called the subject matter of economics. Okay, what did I say? This can be either the fundamental of economics, the fundamental fact, or the subject matter. And what did I say to you? That given an option where you have 5,000 rupees, you would do everything. You have a lot of wants and those wants are unlimited, right? If I give you 10,000 rupees, automatically these four options would increase to 10 options, right? You would get a lot of wants, then you will get a lot of desires. So one of the fundamental facts of economics before understanding economics is that the human wants are what? Are unlimited. Right? So human wants are unlimited is one fundamental fact of economics. What is the second one? The second one is, yes, the human wants are unlimited. I have a lot of options in my mind that I want to do, but what is happening? The resource that I have, the money that I have, what is that money? The money is the resource. The resource that I have to actually satisfy that want, they are very scarce, right? They are very limited, correct? They're relatively scarce when compared to the wants that I have. And these resources have alternative options, correct? There are a lot of options in the way that I can spend the resource. In our example, what is the resource? The resource is the 1,000 rupees that we have. That 1,000 rupees is firstly very scarce. Secondly, it also has alternative uses to them, right? So what is the second fundamental fact that I can write? The means. The means. What do I mean by the means? Brackets mein resources. The means to satisfy such wants are relatively, use the word relatively, I'll tell you why. Relatively scarce and have alternative uses. Correct? So the resources that you have, they are relatively scarce. What do I mean by scarce? That means they're too less, right? Scarce means, if you see the dictionary meaning of the scarce word, you would find that the scarce meaning is too less when compared to something else. Now, why am I using the word relatively here and not just scarce? Relatively scarce, because when I compare this thing with something else, then I would know that this is scarce, right? That is why I'm using the word relatively. Relatively here means comparatively to something else, this resource is very scarce. So in our example, comparatively to the wants that I have, to the various options that I have, or the various things that I want to do, comparing to them, relatively my resources, which is the 1,000 rupees, is very scarce, right? So these are two fundamental facts or the subject matter of economics as to what forms the fundamentals of economics. I hope everybody is clear till now. Just type in yes if you have no problem. then I can move forward. And I hope everybody's copying. All right. So this was an example. Let's take another example. In the other example, let's say you were in college and you go into your home. College leaves you at 4 p.m. Okay. When college leaves you at 4 p.m., you are normally hungry, right? So you think, I will go home and what do? And prepare a cake. I've learned how to bake during this quarantine time. So after going to college afterwards, you again get that craving. Array, I had learned baking cake during quarantine time. Let me go back to my baking and let's bake a cake today and eat a cake and satisfy this hunger that I have. Okay, so you're walking towards your home. You go to your home, you open your fridge, and what do you see there? You need a lot of items to actually make a cake, right? You just find a packet of bread, right? So you went home and in the fridge, don't mind my drawings because my drawings are very bad generally. There's a packet of bread. Natasha, if you've not understood the previous example, I'll explain again. Just listen to this example. That is also explaining the same concept. So you've gone to your home, you wanted to bake a cake, you want to eat a cake, but if you open the fridge, you just found a bread packet, right? Now what do? Do you not eat it, but you are hungry? Can you make a cake? No, you cannot make a cake. You don't have the ingredients for the cake. What do? You take that piece of bread, you see if you have jam or if you have sauce, and then apply something on that bread and eat. To do what? To satisfy your hunger. So what are you doing? You're finally satisfying your hunger for sure. Right? You had that want. What was the want in our case, in your example now? The want was to satisfy the hunger, right? That want has to be satisfied in order for you to not be hungry then, right? Then you went home, you did not prepare cake because you did not have ingredients. You ate the bread and satisfied that hunger. What happened here? Your want was something else, but you did not have the resource for that want. You used some other resource to satisfy the same want, correct? So to just summarize the two examples, if I want to summarize, and you also write this point in your books, evaluation of alternatives and choosing which will give you maximum satisfaction is done by every individual, right? In your day-to-day life also, in your daily life also, you have a lot of options, you have a lot of things that you have in your mind, but then you evaluate as to what is important, right? Right now also, to attend this class, you might be having a lot of options that I want to watch a movie, I want to go out and play, I want to see this, I want to do that. But no, you've evaluated all the alternatives and you saw as to what would give you the maximum satisfaction. The class would give you the maximum satisfaction. That is why you're attending this class, correct? So it is done by every individual, every society. What is society? Society is a group of people, right? The associations or the companies, those are called societies. And every economy also, right? The whole economy also, the whole country also, right? They also decide sometimes as to, we have these resources and there are a lot of options that you can do with those resources, but then the economy decides. Let's say the economy has 100 crore funds with them, right? With these 100 crore funds, they have a lot of options that they can do, but then they evaluate the alternatives and they see that what would be the alternative which will give them the maximum benefit or the maximum satisfaction for the economy, and then they decide depending on that. So that is done by every individual, every society, and every economy, right? I hope you're copying all these. So we've done with fundamental facts of economics. We've seen a concept where you evaluate and you select an alternative which will give you maximum satisfaction. Okay, so these alternatives. So now we would go to the definition of economics and write down what is economics then. We have seen as to what are fundamental facts of economics. We have understood that example also. Now, how is economics playing a role there? So, economics is the study. Okay, study of what? What do you study there? Is the study of processes. Okay, there is a lot of processes. You're studying those processes, and what are those processes doing? Processes by which you can use those processes, and by which the relatively scarce, again I am not using the word scarce, I am using the word relatively scarce, are allocated right, to what? To satisfy competing unlimited wants, competing unlimited wants of humans in a society. Okay, so I have told you a lot of words in economics. Now, what are those? Let's go one by one. Firstly, economics is the study. What are you studying? In that study, what are you doing? You're studying the processes. And what is happening by that process? By that process, you're allocating relatively scarce resources. Sorry, I missed the word resources there. Apologies. Relatively scarce resources. So add the word resources there after scarce. What are you doing in that process? You are allocating relatively scarce resources, correct? To what? You have some resources. What are you allocating them to? You're allocating them to competing, right? All the wants of yours or all the desires of yours are competing with each other. They want to go up. They want to go up. This one wants to go up, and this one also wants to go up. Whatever would reach in your mind first on the maximum position, you would allocate those resources to that particular one. So all the wants are also competing with each other. And what did I tell you? The first fundamental fact that the human wants are unlimited, right? So competing unlimited wants of humans in society. So these are the words, or these are the highlighted words that you need to remember in order to remember the definition of economics, right? Okay, so this was the definition of economics as to, from the book perspective, as to what is economics. But this definition was given in a neoclassical period. Okay, neoclassical modern period, which was there in 17th and 18th century, right? At that time this definition was given, but now this definition, we find it that something is missing in this definition. It's not a complete definition. There is something that needs to be added to this definition in order to it to be complete. Okay, so let's see what is missing here. Let's take an example again. Let's say you have 100 logs of wood. What do you have? You have 100 logs of wood. Now, what all can you prepare with this wood? Quickly, what all can you prepare with this wood? You have 100 logs of wood. Okay, one is that you can make a table, you can make a chair. Yes, Samkit, I will repeat the definition again. You can make beds, you can make your cupboards, right? There's a lot of things that you can actually make with the relatively scarce resource that you have. I have limited your resource only to 100 logs. So can you prepare everything of it and in any number that you want? No, you'll have to limit your particular production to only 100 logs of wood, or only 100 units that you have. Now, let's say you in the factory, sorry, in the factory, you have 2 men and 2 machines. So what do you have? You have a factory where you convert this raw material of wood into table, chair, beds, and cupboards. For right now, let's suppose these 100 logs were only to produce tables. Okay, so these 2 men and 2 machines were employed to produce tables out of these 100 logs. Let's say they put together can make 5 chairs five chairs in 1 hour. Okay, so 2 men and 2 machines, they're able to make 5 chairs in 1 hour. So what would happen if I give them 1 hour of time, and if I give them 100 logs of wood, they will give me 5 chairs in an hour. But if you increase their productive capacity, now what's the productive capacity right now? Their productive capacity or the ability to produce right now is only 5 chairs in an hour. If I want to increase that, how would I increase that? I would give them some additional skill sets. I would train them well. I would educate them about how to use the machines. Then they would increase their productive capacity, right? They would be able to make these chairs very fast in a faster manner, right? Likewise, machines. What can be done with the machines? Machines can also be upgraded, right? If it's making 5 chairs in an hour, let's say I've put an upgraded machine now, which can make 10 chairs in an hour. So my productive capacity is increasing, right? So if my productive capacity is increasing, my production will also increase in the limited number of time that I have, right? Also, this wood that I have 100 logs of wood. Let's say every time that I purchase wood, the wood from outside is not very good. So I have to remove the outer portions of the wood in order to use that wood for making a chair. So what is happening here? My raw material that I'm purchasing, that raw material are having some dirt or having some problem in the outer cover, and I'll have to remove that outer cover in order to use it. But now I've changed the vendor, and I'm not taking 100 logs of wood from this vendor, but from another vendor who's giving me a better quality of wood where the outer layer need not be removed in order to make a chair. So again, because of a better raw material, what is happening? My production will increase, right? There'll be more number of chairs that I can produce with the same number of raw material that I have. So what is happening again? My production capacity is increasing. This definition that we've studied, this is nowhere relating to it's not concerning the productive capacity, or it's not taking into account the productive capacity of the economy or the productive capacity of one particular industry, right? When I said that relate is the study of the process by which, again, I'm coming to the definition for those who have not followed. What is economics? It is the study of the process by which the relatively scarce resources, whatever resources are relatively scarce, are being allocated to the unlimited ones. Here, what was the resource? Here, 100 logs of wood was the resource. There were unlimited ones like table, chairs, beds, cupboards, and stuff like that, right? Now, I will have to, what is the process here? I will decide as to what do I want to produce so that it gives me maximum satisfaction. But in order to see that, what do I have to take into account? My productive capacity, right? If I take into account my productive capacity only, then only I will know as to with these 100 logs of wood, how many tables can I make? How many chairs? How many beds, right? You need a number to all this in order to decide as to how will you make use of this logs, right? You would put numbers. Let's say tables you're making 10, chairs you're making 15, but beds you're able to make 25. Okay, what would you do? You would calculate with these numbers as to what price they would give in the market. Whatever gives the maximum amount of price, you would produce that. But if you don't have these numbers, if you don't know your productive capacity, if you're not taking into account your productive capacity, then you will be confused as to what do I do, right? In order to take a decision as to what do I do with this wood, I need numbers to the number of products that I can produce. And what will give me those numbers? My productive capacity will give me those numbers, right? If I'm not concentrating on productive capacity only, then there's no meaning, or there'll not be a proper outcome. And that process by which you're trying to allocate the scarce resources to unlimited wants would not be complete, right? So what is missing in this definition now? In this definition, productive capacity is missing, right? I hope everybody is able to hear me properly because Natasha is having a problem. So what's missing in the above definition? Write down this point now. Despite the above definition being correct, despite the above definition being correct, it's right, but something is missing, right? So it is incomplete okay, wait. Okay, how's it now? How's the noise now? Is my voice audible now, or I'll have to be more louder? So despite the above definition being complete, being correct, it is incomplete. Why? As it assumes, what does it assume? It assumes fixed resources. Try to increase your volume, Natasha. I don't see any problem from my end. As it assumes fixed resources, fixed skill set, and fixed productivity or production capacity. Fixed productivity or production capacity, right? What is the definition assuming, or what is the definition not including? It's not including that the resources which we have, the wood that I have, it can be changed, it can be increased, or the quality of it can be changed so that my production can increase, right? So it's assuming fixed resources, it's assuming it's fixed. What is the second thing that is assuming? That the skill set of the laborers, or skill set of the labor that I have, skill set of the workers that I have, that is also fixed, correct? But it cannot be. I can change the skill set of the laborers by imparting training, by educating them about the machines, by giving them more flexibility, by giving them proper working hours, right? I can change their skill set so that my productivity increases. And it's also assuming fixed productivity, which cannot be the chance because production capacity keeps changing, right? So it is incomplete as it assumes these things. So how do you make it complete? I will explain it again. Just copy. So what is missing? But the production capacity is constantly changing, right? I'll come back to that, Naman. So, but the production capacity is constantly changing. And how is the production capacity changing? With new raw material, correct? New and better raw material, there'll be more production. With population growth, right? If the population increases, there is a chance that my labor number also increase. With new and improved plant and machinery, can increase productivity. Okay, so to the doubt that Naman has as to what is the difference, how do you differentiate between production and productivity? Very good doubt. So if I want to go back here, what happened here? I had 100 logs of wood and I calculated my production capacity right now, and I calculated that I can produce 10 tables or 15 chairs or 25 beds. Now in this example, what would be my production of tables? My production of tables, my production of tables is 10 tables, right? That is my production. As to what am I producing? What is my productivity? My productivity, how do I define? The productivity is the capacity of your particular factory to produce tables, right? The ability of factory. What is the ability? I told you that instead of 5 chairs, let's say the productivity of the factory is 5 tables per hour, right? That is the productivity of my factory, put together my labor, my machinery, my everything. If I put them together and if I start producing, what is the productivity of my factory? That I can produce 5 tables in an hour. In order to complete my total production, I would need 2 hours, right? In our example. So what is production and what is productivity? Production is nothing but the amount of the goods or the number of the goods that you're actually producing. That would be your production, the total production. What is productivity? Productivity is the capacity of your particular factory to produce things. What is the capacity right now? It can produce 5 tables per hour, right? But this productivity can be changed. And how can it be changed? It can be changed by new raw material or a better raw material, right? If I get better logs of wood, I told you that if there's a bad wood where I want to cut the outer surfaces, I would lose some raw material. But if I get a new raw material or a better raw material, I will increase my production, right? Automatically, this 5 tables per hour will increase. Why? Because now raw material is a better raw material, right? Similarly, if you increase the skill set of the laborers, you can increase this productivity. Or if you bring out new machineries, or if you employ a better machinery, upgraded machinery, again this productivity will increase. This 5 tables can be increased, right? So this productivity concept was not there in your economics definition, and that is why it was incomplete. So now we'll include that, right? So therefore, economics also deals with processes by which production capacity can be increased. I'm not saying production. What I'm saying? I'm saying production capacity, the ability to produce something. Production capacity can be increased. And beside this example, also write these, that production and productivity, and write the difference. That production is what? Production is the total number of products that you produce. Production is the total number of products that you produce. And what is productivity? Productivity is the capacity. Productivity is the capacity of a particular factory / economy. Productivity is the capacity of a particular factory or economy to produce. Correct? To produce. And you can write that example. Production example 10 tables. Productivity example 5 tables per hour. Right? Okay. So what did we cover today? Let's just get a brief and just revise as to what did we cover today, so that then we can start our class fresh tomorrow. First is, I've told you as to what do I expect from you guys with relation to different things like discipline. Ask why. Always have that why in your mind. Revise whatever you've read. Study in disciplined manner. Be proactive. Don't be lazy. Ask doubts very freely. Don't hesitate to ask doubts so that you're clear. And prepare your notes how? Very beautifully, right? What are the expectations that you can have from class? The class would be education with fun. We would make sure that it's not a boring class. Doubts would be clarified via telegram and calls. Simple English would be used. The pace and speed of the class would be according to the subject, according to the difficulty of the topic. And the tests would be as in when the chapter ends. Then we saw as to what are the chapters and approximate weightage. We saw from ICI's perspective as to what do ICI expect out of business economics subject. We saw tips that we can give you to tackle MCQ questions. Why is economics important for a chartered accountant. Then we moved on to the chapter. We still did not start the chapter. We just understood as to what is economics, right? Then we'll start the chapter tomorrow in a proper way. We took an example. We saw out of that example, we took out the two fundamental facts. Remember these fundamental facts because they're of utmost importance, right? So there's human wants which are unlimited. The means to satisfy such wants are relatively scarce, and also they have alternative uses. Then we saw that evaluating various alternatives and choosing one which will give you maximum satisfaction is done by everybody, every individual, every economy, and every individual, every society, and every economy. What is a society? Society is a group of people. It can be an association, it can be a company, right? Then we went on to see the definition of economics, which is very important. Economics is what? It is the study of processes by which the relatively scarce resources, they are being allocated to what? To competing unlimited wants of humans, right? The wants are competing, they're competing with each other, and also they are unlimited. Then we saw that that definition is correct, but something is missing in that definition. And what is that thing missing? Production or productivity or production capacity is missing. The capacity of production is missing in the definition. So if you include the process of productivity or the process by which you can increase production to the definition of economics, then the definition would be complete, right? Okay, any doubts in today's class? If you don't have any doubts, we can end the class. So any doubts you can shoot right now in the chat box. Funny saying law of diminishing marginal utility, but don't apply that law to our subject. So it should not be the case that you're studying the subject and as in when you're studying, the utility is decreasing. Please know what should happen actually, as in when you're studying the subject, the utility should just be increasing so that more and more interest is actually inculcated in our learnings. What is the definition of production? Production is the amount of goods that can be produced. Production is the amount of goods that can be produced. Natasha, I can't understand what you're saying. What is despite? There is no mention of alternative uses and definition of economics, right? So one of the main thing that is actually missing from the definition of economics, that we have seen in the fundamental facts that whatever resources that you have, they also have alternative uses. But that particular thing is not there in our definition. It's missing. Okay, so this despite the above definition being correct. What am I saying here? The above definition is correct, but something is missing. And what is missing? Production capacity is missing. That is why this whole thing for you, Natasha. Okay, so I hope the class was good. We would end the class now and we would again meet tomorrow, right? We have economics in our schedule tomorrow also. And after this class, we would have maths class, and maths class would start at sharp 1:30. So be in the class again at 1:30 and we would continue tomorrow. So again, I'll revise all this tomorrow in a very brief manner. So if you have more doubts relating to production or productive capacity, I'll be happy to clear them. Okay, thank you guys. Bye. I'll say production productivity again tomorrow. Don't worry. Thank you.